So, of course, I ain't got a chance to talk about this at all for a minute, but definitely got to talk about the Clippers. Holy cow, did Kawhi really just try LeBron and be like, you know what, is this your king? But anyway, back to the real matter at hand. Kawhi, of course, stunned the world by signing with the Clippers for 3 years, $102 million. Player option on the third year. Of course, then he went and pulled this magic card saying, got PG to come over there with him and join him against LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the same arena as them in the Staples Center. So, this Clipper team is kind of scary as hell. The thing about this team is that you don't really know what's going to happen as far as like how the roster is going to play out. If you had to look on paper and everything and go by production and see how each of the guys actually play, this team is kind of scary on defense and offense. If we kind of break it down here and see what's going on, you've got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, of course, the two-way players that can kind of do it on both ends of the floor and take pride in defense. But then again, Pat Bev, is he going to be your starting point guard, which I think that is the case. Those are three guys right there you kind of have to deal with on defense, and it's going to be annoying as hell. But on top of that, you have Landry Shamet probably coming off the bench more than likely now, unless they run a more traditional lineup with probably Kawhi or either PG at the power forward position. I would probably go with PG just because he's 6'9", and Kawhi's like a legit 6'7", but hey, we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. Or you can just do PG at the 2. He has played some 2-guard once upon a time in the league, but I don't really think that's exactly what you really want him to do. But, if it works out for you, then, hey, by all means, go ahead and try it. On top of that, you have a lot of defensive guys. Between Mo Harkless, Patrick Beverly, Kawhi Leonard, of course, you have Paul George as well. So, it's a couple of defensive guys that are really going to make you work. Lil Will is not a defensive guy, but also you have to talk about that offensive scoring punch as well. You have to think about it. You have to deal with Kawhi and Paul George on the offensive end to start off the night. And then on top of that, you have Pat Bev, who can kind of stretch the floor out, who shot 40% from the three-point line this past season. Especially with Kawhi and PG having the ball in their hands and capable of putting the ball in their hands and making something happen and making plays. And then they can kind of kick it out to Pat Bev and he can have an open three or something like that. Just having that right there alone, that's a lot to deal with. And then on top of that, as soon as they go sit down, you have Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell kind of killing you with the pick and roll game and the chemistry that those two have. Especially with Lou Will coming off the bench to giving you like 20 to 23 a night. That's a huge problem. And then Montrezl Harrell, if he can keep improving or kind of just keep staying where he's at or a little bit better, he averaged like 16 points a game this past season. But if he can kind of get to the, 16 through 19 points per game off the bench area, that's kind of a lot to deal with. Also, you have Zubac. The Clippers did re-sign him for the 4 years for like $27 million. Obviously they see something in him that, the Lakers didn't see in him when they got him. And then on top of that, Shamet coming off pick and roll. He came over from Philly, learning from J.J. Redick coming off screens. And, he wasn't afraid to let it fly when he was with the Clippers and when he came over from the trade with Tobias. Just him showing that confidence and that skill set and that cockiness to just, pull up from anywhere. I think that's going to be a huge problem for people and stuff like that in the league. So, it's going to be a lot of stuff to kind of deal with these Clippers on the offensive and defensive end. I think the bench unit is kind of lacking on the defensive end, unless, like I said, Mo Harkless kind of just, erupts every night and he kind of just holds down the defensive end back, Kawhi or PG. Or you could just try to, some nights, maybe you want a slow night or easy night, you just bring Kawhi start and PG be content with coming off the bench, even though I don't think that's the whole case. But, it's something to work with if you want, like, your offensive and defensive game to be on point and your bench players to have a whole lot of firepower. I could see them experimenting with this more as far as the playoffs, but regular season, I think they just kind of whoop your ass the whole 82 games. When it comes to comparing them to the Lakers, I think they have a more all-around team than the Lakers do. I think the Lakers are just too scoring heavy, but really no defense except for like Danny Green and Bradley. But I don't think those guys are pretty much too good to like through everything like that. I mean, but granted, you have LeBron, all those committed to the offensive end. So, I mean, if they can just go all in on defense, just like even so with the Clippers with Kawhi and PG, if all those guys can just go all in on offense, and then, your role players commit on defense and hit their shots. I mean, this could get pretty scary between those two teams. On top of that, you've got, it's just a lot of stuff to deal with when it comes to this Clippers team. I imagine that PG, since he got a shoulder fit, he'll be shooting a better percentage from the three-point line. I imagine PG will have the ball in his hands sometime, and Kawhi really doesn't have to have the ball in his hands. But along with Kawhi's defensive instincts and stuff like that, and then Pat Bev just being a dog, who's going to, especially if you only have one player on your team, somebody between Kawhi, PG, and Pat Bev is going to guard him. So if you only got one great player on your team, someone like Phoenix with Devin Booker, well, I guess you can kind of throw DeAndre Ayton in the mix too. But, I mean, other than like that, when DeAndre Ayton's only scoring like 16 a game and Devin Booker's only averaging like 26 points a game, I mean, of course, at that point, you do guard Devin Booker. But, I mean, what are you really doing? So you really don't have an answer for that. But, I mean, I can't wait to see this Clippers team come together. I'm pretty sure Doc Rivers being an amazing coach and, stuff like that, and him putting together, 48 wins last season with basically nothing but role players. I mean, we'll see how this kind of goes. But if anybody can do it at this point, Doc Rivers has been a proven coach, and he's won a championship with the Boston Celtics. So, I mean, he's got the resume for it, and I definitely think with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on his roster, he'll definitely cook up something. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Clippers do now that they're big time. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how